2018, dice game Ganz schön clever nabbed a Kinderspiel des Jahres nomination for designer Wolfgang Warsch and publisher Schmidt Spiele. Kinderspiel is meant for expert games or connoisseur games. We don't have a great word for it in English. Games slightly more involved than what most people are familiar with. And the game lost out, but it lost to another Warsch and Schmidt title, The Quacks of Quedlinburg, so you can't feel bad for them. Ganz schön clever has proved hugely popular, especially in its app form, where you can just complete a game in a couple of minutes and where people just push themselves endlessly to try to get over 300 points. This magic threshold that's just, it seems impossible to do, but everyone who does it is just like, yes, we finally did it. And then they feel like they're done with the game. Like they'll never do that good again. So they're done. But anything that succeeds really well in the game industry, you can be pretty sure you're going to see more of it. And the trend seemed to be that you'd see expansions for a game. If it won an award or was hugely popular, you'll see something adding onto it. More tiles for Carcassonne or a new map for something. All these sort of spin-offs, Catan going in all sorts of different directions. But you also have standalone games, and that seems more the modern trend, where 2016, you had Codenames win Spiel des Jahres, and now there's been Codenames Pictures and Codenames Duet and licensed versions. In 2017, you have King Domino, immediately followed by Queen Domino, along with an expansion for both. 2018, you've got Azul, and then Azul Stained Glass of Centra. So you see these standalone games. It's not new, this pattern. Ticket to Ride won Spiel des Jahres in 2004, and you had the Europe version the following year. So it's not new, but it seems much more consistently that you'll get a complete standalone game. You're not adding on, but you're getting something else completely. And that's the case now with Doppelt so clever, out in 2019, where the gameplay is exactly the same as in Ganz schön clever. How you roll dice and pick them out, and what you do when it's not your turn, that's all the same. But all the scoring is completely new. So familiar but new. That's this ideal combination. So you sort of get into the game more quickly because you know how it works. If you play the original, boom, just tell me what's new here, and then we'll get going. Here are the components in Doppelt so clever, which in English will be titled Twice as Clever. You have a pad of score sheets with each player getting their own. Each player gets their own pen. The game will last 4 to 6 rounds depending on the number of players in the game, and in each round, each player will be the active player once, while being passive players when the other players are active. As active player, you roll the 6 dice. You choose one of them to take an action with. And you do that action, and you put any other dice that are lower than what you chose aside, and they're now out of play. You re-roll everything else, choose something, this goes aside, and now that's it. So I will have marked off 3 things at least on my sheet. Everyone else gets to take one of the dice that I set aside. Hopefully I didn't give them anything good to work with, but sometimes you don't have a choice on what you give away. So what are you doing on this sheet? Well, you're trying to mark off things and score lots of points. You have 5 colored areas on the sheet, and they correspond to the 5 colored dice. The white die is a joker and can be used as any color. Additionally, the white die is used in combination with the blue die when you're marking in this space. So, what do the different dice do? I'm giving a full explanation of Doppelt so clever now in this video, but if you're teaching either of these games in person, I would highly suggest that you teach by playing, that you demonstrate by playing the first round yourself as the active player and doing the things. And so you're already stepping into the game and getting people in there immediately and showing them why they would want to choose something over something else. It's a more immediate way of teaching that jumps people into the game more quickly. Doesn't give them so much overhead where they're trying to put everything together and figure it out before you actually put your hands on something and start playing. The silver area is the trickiest of them all. When you roll the dice and choose the silver die, you're going to mark off one of those numbers. So I have a 6, I have a column of 6s here that match these colors of dice, but I can mark off any 6 that I want. After I do that, I take all the dice that are lower than 6 and I put them up on the platter, but I get to mark them off on my sheet as well. So in this case, pink 3, green 4, blue 4, and a 1 of my choice. I'm going to mark green because at the end of the game, you score for each row individually. If you have only one mark in a row, that's worth only 2 points. If you have 3 marks in a row, it's 7. So you try to concentrate all the marks in a single row in order to maximize your points. Contrary-wise, you're also trying to complete columns, because if you complete columns, then you get a bonus that's shown at the top of that column. The silver die has been the hardest for people to absorb. You choose the silver die, you mark off one of those numbers on your sheet in that column, then you place dice up, and you mark off whatever dice you place up at that time. If there's any dice already in the platter, you don't mark off those, only the ones you move up. If you are the passive player, where you're choosing a die at the end of the round, you get only the number that's on the silver die. You put nothing on the platter, so you get to mark off no bonus dice. Now, of course, I kind of hamstrung myself, because if I did this action on my first turn, I put 4 dice in the platter, 1 die on my sheet. There's only 1 die left to roll, so I'm going to mark off only 2 dice on that first turn. The yellow area is fairly straightforward. You roll the dice. If you choose yellow, you are going to circle one of those numbers. So I can circle either 4 on this sheet. When I circle an entire row or column, I get the bonus that's shown at the end. So if I do this 4 and then later this 3, I get this yellow bonus. I'll talk about bonuses in a minute. However, I will score no points at this time or at the end of the game, because what must happen on a later turn is I roll a die again, I get the right number, and I now X that space that is already circled. And you score points based solely on how many spaces you have marked off. So you have a 2-step process in which 1 step will get you a bonus, and then 1 step will actually get you points. Using the pink die is straightforward. You put the pink die on your sheet, and whatever number is on it is the number you write in the leftmost empty space in the pink row. At the end of the game, you're going to sum all the numbers that you wrote, and that is your score for pink. That's easy. What's the trick? The first 2 spaces in the pink row are blank. When you write here, you can write whatever you want. It does not matter. But starting from the 3rd space on has this little faint number that may be difficult to see in the video, but it's got a 2 or greater. So if you write a number that's 2 or greater in this space, then you get the bonus that's shown below. And then this goes 3 or greater. So if I write a 2, I do not get this. If I write a 4 here, or 5 or 6, I get the +1. This needs a 5 or more, 6 or more. And so you've got this stream of bonuses waiting for you, but only if you write at least the right number in the right space. So sometimes you don't want to choose pink, even though it's there. You could get 4 points, but you miss out on this bonus if you have to go in this space. So what do you do? The green gives you even more of a challenge, because the first time you write a green number in a space, you double it. So I'll roll something. I got a 2. I do not want to choose green this time, so I'm going to choose pink and write 2 down here for my first turn. And then I roll, oh, a nice green here. Well, I'll double this for 10. And these get set aside. Later in the game, perhaps I'm going to choose the white die to be a green die, and I write a 2 in here, but I double this, and now I subtract this second number from the first number to get my actual points. So I'll get 6 points here, in addition to this reroll bonus for filling in this space. And this pattern continues, where this number is doubled, and this one is just the number itself. This number is tripled, and this is tripled. So you must have 2 digits in here, or rather 2 numbers in here. So hopefully you roll a 12 here and then a 1 to give you 11 points. And hopefully you roll a 6 here for 18 and then a 1 here for 3 in order to get 15 points. Probably not going to happen. The odds get better as you go along. This is tripled and this is doubled. This is tripled, this is single, this is quadrupled, and this is only the 1 die itself. But focusing entirely on green may not be the best option, for reasons I'll mention later, starting with these foxes. And if you write a number in but don't fill in this second space, then you get nothing for this at all. As in the original Ganz schön clever, the blue die is always paired with the white die, no matter where the white die is. The white die is a joker, so I could choose it on a round to be a silver, and then later on roll the blue and choose the blue, and whatever number is already showing on the white die is what I use in combination with the blue. You add those numbers together, and that's what you're going to enter in that space as long as it's legal to do so. You might notice these less than or equal to symbols between the blue numbers here. So whatever number you write in here first, the next number that you write in has to be less than 10 or equal to 10. Ideally, of course, you're going to roll 10 all the way across the board, but that's probably not going to happen. And at some point you'll step down to 8, and then you'll have 6, and then you'll have 5, and then you're really restricted on what you can write later, which leads you hoping for low numbers. As you write in, you're going to get bonuses, and your score for blue is whatever the starred number is in the space at right that you write it. The bonuses in Doppelt so clever, as in Ganz schön clever, what really give the game juice. They're what sort of drive the complexity a bit more beyond simply having 5 different ways to enter numbers into grids with restrictions on how to do this, and each of them having their own individual scoring setup. That's enough on its own for some people. I tried to teach people the game at a chess tournament, and they were just like, this is too much for me. I can't do this. For people who have not played somewhat involved games, it's a lot to put in your head at once, and the bonuses just push that over the edge. So not only are you looking at the dice that you roll for the actual values of those dice, considering which dice will be put aside if you choose this or this or this, but in addition, what are you actually scoring as you mark something in your grid, and what do you get on top of just that basic score? Here's a sample roll, and you can't really pretend this is a real game because I've just been writing random numbers all over my sheet here to give you examples of how things work. But if we were to choose something, such as the silver 6, I'd mark off a 6 of my choice, but then I lose out on the green and blue 4 because I've already marked them, and the yellow 1, I've marked them. I'd only mark 2 more dice, and that would be it for my round. So I probably don't want to do that. I could choose a pink 5, and that will give me lots of things to do, because I'll do the 5, and then it gives me a green bonus because the number here is 5 or greater. I can pretend I rolled a 1 here for green and write 2, gives me 16 points, and I get a silver bonus. I can come up here with my silver bonus, mark off this 4, and now I get a blue bonus. Now I can write 5 here, and now that's going to give me 8 more points for blue. So you're adding up the points each time. If you want to think of it, that was 5 here, that was 16 here, that was 8 more here, so that's 24, 29, plus 2 more points for writing there, 31 points in a single go for this single die. These are all set aside, out of play. Well, that brings up an addition to this game that was not in the original Ganz schön clever. At the start of a round 1, you're going to get a reroll bonus. So as the active player, if you don't like what you rolled, you can cross this out and re-roll everything that you just rolled. You have the +1 bonus, as in the original Ganz schön clever. And when you use a +1 bonus, not only do you choose 3 dice like normal, but you can choose any one of the 6 dice and use it immediately. And if you have multiple +1 bonuses, you can do this multiple times on the same turn. You just have to choose different dice when you do so. If you're not the active player, you can still use the +1. I can choose one of these dice up here on the platter, and then I can go and choose any one of those 6 to use on my score sheet. So even though the active player tried to hide all the good stuff on their sheet, I can still go and use something there. So in addition to that, there is a new bonus in here in which if you have this available, you get a free one at round 3, and you'll earn others based on the bonuses in the grid. Well, you can cross one out, and you pull a die back to play. So if I had this bonus already, chose a 5, everything else went up on the platter except for the 6, well, now I can cross off that bonus, and I can pull a die back into play. And now I have 2 things to roll. That's useless, because I already have the 1 column, and if I choose this, I'm done. So let me mark out my invisible reroll here, and then I roll again. And I do this, I mark off a 3 of my choice. My last action, I do this, I mark off a 5 of my choice, and now I'm done. So you have got rerolls available to you as the active players. You have the pullback a die from the platter, which is really good because, of course, with the silver one, you're going to be placing things there and then pulling them back. You want to have as many dice in the pool as possible for when you finally choose that silver die to try to maximize the number of things you're going to write off. You want to pull back the joker if possible, because why give it to your opponents? Why give the opponents more choice if you don't have to do that? Pull back that joker die. Hopefully you can put something else over there. A blue die that's useless because it's going to be a higher sum than what they already have, or it's a super low number at the beginning of the game that no one wants to write a 4 in the leftmost column in the blue, because then they're done with blue. It'd be very unlikely that they'll score anything. And this becomes important because of one final bonus I had not mentioned yet. On the score pad for Doppelt So Clever, you have 6 foxes. One, if you get all the re-rolls by filling out different bonuses here, and you get to this end of the line, you get a fox. If you circle this column, you get a fox. You X out this row, you get a fox. You get one here, here, here as well. Up to 6 foxes in the game. The foxes count as an additional scoring category. You take whatever your lowest score is for these 5 categories, and you multiply it by the number of foxes that you have. If you scored nothing, if I don't X out anything in yellow and my yellow score is 0, then all my foxes are 0 as well. So having this fox ability gives you an incentive to push up all the scores as high as you can. There's an overview of Doppelt So Clever, which I played 4 times on a review copy from Spiele with 2 and 4 players, as well as Solitaire. The range of Solitaire scores in the rulebook suggests if you score 320 or more, then yes, you're indeed twice as clever. And I've not even come close to that in 4 games where my high score has been about 160. I've seen a winning score of 191. That's our target so far, but that is a far cry from 300. It's interesting that just the challenge that's facing you, where you look and see, how am I going to approach things? What am I trying to maximize in order to drive my score up there? Because you need that pinballing effect of the bonuses where I do this, I do this, I do this, and so on, and I put everything together. Am I trying to maximize all yellow, where I can circle things, and then I get the rows and columns, and they give all bonuses, and I go all there, but then I have no points in yellow, because I haven't X'd anything out yet. Can I get back to it? Will I get the right things? Or is pink good? Because from the 3rd space on, there's bonuses all the way across, assuming you get the right numbers to fill. So is that going to work? You don't know. It's just going to be, you need these lucky rolls. You need the high numbers at the right time and low numbers at the right time. I don't know about medium numbers. Maybe just settle for medium numbers. You need everything at the right time in the right way to just have everything trigger and then reach this threshold where suddenly things rocket up. And it's I don't know. It's a fascinating game design problem where you sort of separated the mechanical choices of the dice from what you're actually doing with those dice. And potentially there'll be another game. There'll be a Doppelt So Clever at some point. You can just see how it's possible to do that. You're separating not the form from the function, but sort of these different elements that merge together well. All the choices in the score are what drive your choice after the roll. And the actual choosing of the dice, okay, well that's simple to do, but it's all that stuff in the score that drives everything else. I believe it was Knizia saying about your scoring system is your game. I might just be crediting Knizia because he gets credited for a lot of things. But the scoring system is what is driving everything else. So you have the imperative to score well in everything in order to maximize the value of foxes. But you don't know whether that's possible and what's going to be right at a certain time or what's going to come in the future. And so you're just making these little choices, and hopefully everything adds up well and compounds. You get that compound interest of the game that just builds up and becomes something more than just your simple die choices. The game is simple, right? Roll dice, choose them. But the game is not simple. So it's this interesting conundrum looking at the games where surface level, there's nothing to it. And if you've played a lot of games, then yeah, you can be comfortable with it. But for new people that I've seen confronted with it, no, move on, something else. So, pick your opponents wisely when you're playing.